Good afternoon. You're listening to Cannabis Corner on WNHHLP 103.5 FM, broadcasting live from downtown New Haven. We're streaming live on TuneIn Radio and NewHavenIndependent.org. We're also streaming live video on Facebook and YouTube. Just go to your Facebook page and look us up or hit see first to see and hear all the great programs we have here on WNHHLP. And just a reminder, Cannabis Corner is also streaming live on the Greenhaven Media Facebook page and ProCannabisMedia.com. Welcome, everybody. It is Monday, August the 4th, 2025. Welcome to Cannabis Corner. I am your host, Joe LaChance, Joe the Weed Guy, and I am joined here, of course, by the one and only Farmer Lou. How are you today, brother?
Oh, I'm maintaining, brother. I'm maintaining, doing as best as I could, but it's all part of the way that it goes. Today's stories are full of today's news and everything is full of lots of
scandals,
trials and tribulations, and just a little bit of everything all over the place.
Oh yeah, not just the cannabis, not
just cannabis, but
no.
It's crazy. It's so much we're going to be getting into.
Yeah, we'll be
on top of things, and then even local shockers and things. But
first, I want to welcome our first sponsor.
There you go. Yes, sir.
To the show, Metatron Homegrown, and if you don't know these guys, Metatron Homegrown, Gabe Zabarano, a great guy, great member of the community. He has always supported us and always supported the community. He's opened a new location up in Orange. He has 2 locations now in Meriden and Orange. And Metatron Homegrown is your place to go for all your homegrowing needs. And we'll be doing a big grand opening with Gabe in September. I believe it's the 14th. So we want to thank Gabe and Metatron Homegrown for being the first ever sponsor of Cannabis Corner Radio. And just as a side note, if you would like to become a sponsor, please contact us through Instagram or Facebook, or email me at greenhavenmedia@gmail.com. We can do monthly sponsorships. We can go yearly, whatever you want to do. Very reasonably priced, tax deductible. We want to thank Gabe for being our first, but hopefully he won't be our last. All right, Lou, thanks again for Gabe. With that piece of business out of hand, I want to get into a next piece of business. I want to show you all this.
Yeah. There you go. What do you got there, Joe?
This is my official certificate of pardon. I actually got it in the mail, and I framed it. Look at that. It has a seal, and it says, Certificate of Pardon. To all people who present shall come. Greeting, Joseph Peter LaChance III, alias Joseph LaChance. Joseph Peter LaChance is granted a full and absolute unconditional pardon for the crime of sale of hallucinogenic narcotic 9/13/1984, for which said person was convicted in the state of Connecticut, and does hereby forever acquit, release, and discharge the person from the same, enjoining all officers to respect to the pardon and govern themselves accordingly.
Look at you, Joe.
I knew I had gotten pardoned, but I finally got the official document. I put it in a frame. It's going on my wall. It's probably one of the things that was hanging over my head for the longest time in my entire life. And it's something that is finally gone, and I'm really appreciative to the people who helped out. Jen, Uzma, my therapist, Andy, for giving me recommendations. For Tiana Hercules for helping me through the process. And Jen, especially Jen from Burn and Learn, for motivating me to do it. So that is awesome, a chapter closed in my book, and I don't plan on opening another one. So
there you go.
So that's good news. Let's get through the events. There's really only one that I want to highlight. Well, two. I want to highlight this Saturday, August the 9th, we're doing the Good Vibes Festival down at Bohemian High, in the parking lot outside. It's a great time. There's going to be bands there. Cannabis Corner will have a booth. We'll be selling the Make America Green t-shirts. We'll be having plants up for adoption. It's going to be a beautiful day outside. This is the 9th from 12 o'clock to 8 o'clock. If you can come down to Bohemian High in Milford, support the Good Vibes Festival, it would be very, very, very greatly appreciated. And then we also have coming up at the end of the month, we have the Beach Festival on the 23rd at the Holy Ghost Park with, of course, the Burn and Learn Festival. So, but I did really want to highlight the Good Vibes Festival. I will be down there all day hanging out. If you want to come down, chill. It'd be a great time. Rich and Gloria are great people, and I really want to support them. So that's that. That's the event. Those are the two events, and then there's one coming up at the end of the month, but I'll get into that later. All right. So, Lou, we got Raphael coming on today, but there are a couple of things that have broken over the week since we've been on the air that really have kind of made a big effect on the cannabis industry in a lot of ways. The first one, to me, is the one I found out about first. Did you hear about the fake licenses being sold?
You were going to tell me about that, and I was really waiting.
Yeah, well, here we go. Attorney General Tong seeks $2.5 million prejudgment remedy in fraudulent cannabis license for sale scheme. The complaint filed in the Hartford Superior Court alleges that the defendants misrepresented to Connecticut retailers that they were part of a fictional state pilot program that authorizes them to sell exclusive cannabis licenses and cannabis supply. Now, these licenses were sold to about 35 to 70 Connecticut retailers, smoke shops, by two guys from Connecticut, one from Fairfield named Michael Tedesco, and the other is, what's his name? I can't really pronounce it, but it's Zafir Iqbal of Oakdale. And their corporation is Make CT Better LLC. Now, these guys tricked 35 to 70 Connecticut retailers into paying over either $25,000 to $30,000. New Milford, New Haven, and Manchester. But what they're finding out is, as they're doing, remember we've been really complaining about these task force and why are the smoke shops selling it and all that without a license. Well, it turns out a lot of these guys thought they had a license. They listed a couple right here. Grab and Go Mart in New Haven, New Millie Smoke Shop in New Milford, and Happy Puff LLC in Manchester. So Tong is suing these guys for $2.5 million. He was literally selling these smoke shops a certificate that said that they could sell weed legally.
As long as they were probably buying the weed from them.
I don't know
about that.
I wonder if it went that far, but I'm sure this investigation.
Let's be for real, Joe. Why do you sell the certificate? And then you say, hey, you got to buy the weed from me. You know what I mean? Not to sound rich, what the state does as well. You know,
yeah,
you
pretty much.
You sell the certificate, and then you tell them, the client, that you know, well, we're your supplier. You bought your certificate from us. You're going to get a good deal from us. You're going to, you know what I mean? Like, what's out of the realm of that was the ploy? You know, I'm not separating or taking away from what you're saying, but I'm just kind of giving that, you know, how somebody might look at it.
Lou, leave it to you to show me a whole nother angle I wasn't thinking of. You know, Raphael just joined us, and I think he might have some input on this a little bit. So why don't we bring him in? I'm going to give him his...
What's that do? You know, yeah, we'll bring him in. But yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. Rafael Rosario III is our guest today. He is the founder and one of the principals of the People's Place. It's a testament to what can be achieved when strategic and cooperative relationships are combined with deep commitment to equity, justice, and community empowerment. Our purpose is to provide accessible and flexible infrastructure necessary for people to connect, collaborate, and build together. Our vision is a future where every resident is confident in their ability and supported in their responsibility to form communities, institutions, and systems that they dream of. Our values are rooted in the belief that through collective active action and shared resources, we can transform our small corner of the world and beyond. Raphael, welcome.
Thank you,
How are you
Joe.
today?
I'm good, man. I had a little accident over the weekend. I almost chopped
Oh,
my
what'd you do?
pinky.
You cut your
I
finger?
I was trimming flowers and
Oh.
just went sometimes a little, a little too far.
You're
A
talking
little too
roses,
far.
right?
Yeah, those flowers.
Roses, of course.
No, let him. It'll be exactly the flowers that he's got to.
Right.
Realistically, as
And
long
they
as
were indoor, right, Raphael?
They're right. They were indoors. All legal.
Okay.
All legal.
All
But yeah, I
right.
was trimming and this year's got me. No, so I was listening into your
Yeah, I want to get
conversation,
into
man.
the People's Place, but let's continue this. You
Sure.
are aware of this scheme, and of course the second scheme, which is even bigger. But we'll get into that after.
Yeah, yeah,
This
yeah.
scheme we're getting into right now is the fake licenses. What do you know about it? Lou brought up a good point. Was this guy not only selling them the license, but trying to sell them the cannabis too?
Yeah, no, I mean that's yet to be determined, right? Like a lot of the products that fortunately and fortunately that have been discovered at some of these smoke shops are from out of state, right?
Out
We
of
know,
country, even sometimes,
yeah,
right?
some out of country too. So
Something called a
I'm
China
not,
pack.
yeah, I'm
What's a
not sure
China
where
pack,
they're getting it
huh?
at. Yeah, it makes it dangerous, right? And it highlights to people who are talking about the dangers of the market, right? Like it does make it dangerous. This isn't the legacy market we're talking about, right?
No,
These are
this is an
folks.
this entirely. I wouldn't say brand new, but it
Mhm.
is to the length or to the expansion that it is. It's kind of new. It's kind of like a monkey wrench
may I
that
Yeah,
was
and
throw
nobody
may
really
I throw
expected.
an opinion in here?
Yeah,
yeah, please,
So
please do so.
I would say it's the counterfeit market at this point
mm,
Mm-hmm.
because
Yeah,
they're not looking. They like the legacy market knows what the legacy market's doing. You're intentionally creating social, um, breaking social justice and doing what you're doing intentionally.
right.
The smoke shops are now trying to basically backdoor counterfeit their way in. We're talking
mm-hmm.
about a counterfeit license. It's not an
That's right.
official license. It's made to look like an official. It's looked to, say that it's got some rights that it doesn't. So it's a counterfeit license. And
Mm-hmm.
the flower that these people, as you know, you go into the shop, it's not grade A bud. It's not, it's all generic
Right.
national named stuff from out of state with the packaging and whatever flower they put into it. And the flower they're putting into it is normally what the legacy would call a China pack or some
Mm-hmm.
logo, something
Trap,
of the
trap.
trap packs, street packs.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Street packs is one of the
Yep.
ones we used a lot,
We're
and that was
talking.
super cheap bud that's
That's
sprayed or
right.
not
Super
done. It's the
sprayed.
lowest it's the lowest quality, but it's being misrepresented to be something else. We're not so
That's
like
right.
this is not the legacy market we're talking about.
That's right.
We're
That's
it's a
right.
counterfeit market,
Pretty much. And even
you
the
know.
gummies
Mm-hmm.
and stuff that's mostly counterfeit stuff, Delta 8, Delta 9, stuff that, it's not real.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, and who's to say that the licenses don't go far, stretching out right to places in Waterbury and Bridgeport and other places that other smoke shops who, I don't know, plausible deniability or not, right? Whether these people bought these licenses
Well,
knowing they
now
were
it gives them
counterfeit or not.
plausible deniability,
That's
I
right.
believe.
That's right. And you're talking about 70 licenses that might have been given out that are
At
probably still in
least, yeah.
operation, that are
And they
still in
only
play.
named three.
That's right.
And they're only found this out because of this task force and in their aggressiveness at busting these places. They found this out that the places would end up showing them a certificate that they thought was
That's right.
real.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Yeah, that's
So
wild.
it kind of
That's wild.
creates a quagmire for the state in a
That's
big
right.
way, which is why Tong is suing for 2.5 million. And of course, these guys who did it are in big trouble. But where does it leave these smoke shops? Now, obviously, they broke the law. The state was hoping to get these massive penalties out of them.
Hmm.
But
Yeah,
with this little monkey wrench, where does that leave the smoke shops? Do they have this plausible deniability? Lou?
Ralph.
Yeah, yeah. Who
Uh,
you want to go first?
so for me, just dealing with the regulatory agents, the first thing they always say is, "You're the business owner. You're supposed to know better."
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes you get bamboozled. Sometimes you do
That's
things.
right.
Sometimes you get into a place where, hey, you know, this worked out, and oh, cool. I thought it was working. I thought, you know, and that's why there's a lot of misinformation all over the place, depending what's going on.
That's
So
right.
the regulatory agencies, and it's all it takes is one good lawyer to say, "Hey, we know what you're doing, but like, chill out, chill
That's
out."
right.
One
That's right.
lawyer that's mediocrely good to stop the intimidation from everything else. Because if they don't lawyer up, they're just going to get the, "Oh no, you're supposed to know better. You're supposed to whatever." But one lawyer can come in and say, "Look, you can't validate any of your searches anymore because they were operating under good faith." Like it
Mm.
takes that task force and where everybody else is going at one side, let's call it one side, is going to praise the task force for finding this out. You didn't need a task force to
To
find this
find
out.
this out. No, you just
You
had
know
to
what I
That's
mean?
yeah. Very
bust.
good point.
They've been busting them before the task force. Why didn't they
So
say it before
they had
this?
this news, and they had the name. Like they filed the complaint, and it just went into effect.
But I
You know
knew
what I
about
mean?
this a week or so ago. Mike Goodenough mentioned this to me at the CCSBA meeting, but I hadn't heard any proof, so I never mentioned it. So
Sure.
this
Yeah.
was out there in the rumor mill a few weeks ago.
This was probably how they passed the task force bill.
Yeah. Knowing this was going on in the background.
Right. So
Yeah.
now the conversation in the background is, we need a task force because there's at least 70 to 100 illegally licensed places that we can't do anything about. And then they still can't do anything about because it's tough. They're not licensed by the Department of Consumer Protection. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's right.
So what are they? What's the like, if I do something, they can say, "Well, we'll not license you, or we won't allow you to renew, or there's a penalty of a fee or something." But once again, that comes with, you know, are they one good lawyer?
Hmm.
And that's the thing that I think a lot of people aren't learning, and we have to learn from the cannabis industry, the shop owners, the dispensaries, the people that got sold these licenses. We have to learn a lesson from the alcohol industry that's been overseen by the DCP for a long time. They don't answer the penalties. They have a lawyer answer the penalties.
That's
You
right.
know what I mean? So in New Haven, at least New Haven information, I remember when Toad's Place was shut down for like getting popped for 5 times in a year or whatever, underage serving.
Hmm.
They like came up with a deal where they closed them for 3 months over the summer when Yale was out. So it was their lowest provided thing, hit them with BS charges to justify a low, you know what I mean? But
Right.
the owners ended up paying 10, 20 grand in a lawyer. The DCP had to save face in what they were doing. They knew they were wrong in certain things, but hey, they get away with it unless you get a lawyer. And that's crazy that you have to deal with your regulatory agency with a lawyer, because
Yeah.
they're all lawyers.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
now it's a lawyer telling you what to do. And you're like, okay, cool. They already have a superiority complex, So
Yeah. No,
it's
that's very that's no, you're so it's so real. That's very real. And I think, I think there were a lot of people, on every side of the aisle thinking that this was, the war on drugs 2.0, right? Um, but I think to what you said earlier, Lou, calling this the counterfeit market,
Yeah, it's
um,
spot on,
is
Lou.
is 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 it doesn't just hurt our existing market, but it impacts the legacy market as well, right? For
And
people
anything in between.
and everything in between. You're right. And I think for legislators trying to keep, high delta gummies out of the hands of young people, I think is important, right? I think we need to acknowledge that. But I also want to call out, that though this is important, I don't think that this is one of the key drivers to our current Connecticut cannabis industry, right? Like, I think it's an issue that we have, but our cannabis industry suffering the way that it is not just because of the smoke shops, it's other
Right.
things.
Oh
That
yeah,
was that
there's
was actually not kind of unexpected. I think it was
Yeah,
something that was thrown in a monkey wrench. But you're right; it's not the key. It's not the core of the problem.
that's
And
right. That's
there
right.
definitely seems to be a big problem
Sure.
because, of course, no, the
here's
freaking
the next one.
yeah. Here's the next one. I'm trying to get my article up,
Yep,
and
yep.
the
That was a
Hartford
good
Courant.
transit. That was a good
That's right.
transition.
That's
Yeah.
right.
So now it looks like the Connecticut cannabis industry itself is
Mhm.
under investigation, not from within, but from the federal government. So, what they did, the federal grand jury has opened a probe in how millions of grants were distributed to these nonprofits
Sure.
throughout the state, right? And a lot of this was connected to the cannabis money. So it says federal prosecutors serve subpoenas associated with grand jury investigation. Among believed to be targets of the investigation is Doug McCrory, Senator Doug McCrory, and we know his will name. Sansere Hamlin, and there's a couple of others. But what they're basically claiming is that a lot of the money that was dedicated to going into communities and nonprofits was basically to given nepotistically, would you call it,
Hmm.
in a way, uh, without due process, just given to people who happen to be friends, etc., etc. And with this, it has opened up the doors for the federal government now to investigate the entire Connecticut state licensing social equity program about where all these heavy fees that some people on this show have paid, where all that money went.
Mm.
And so this, to me, when the feds get involved and first they're questioning nonprofits that were donated to by the general fund, and then they discover nonprofits that were donated to through the cannabis fund,
That's right.
and then that lead them to a conclusion. So where did all those licensing fees go? Sounds like the state is in a little bit of trouble here.
Yeah, yeah. I think to the smoke
Yeah, you
shops,
probably,
right?
yeah, to the smoke
And
shops, to the
and to it,
legal
yes.
licensing scam.
I think when you make an industry the most expensive industry in the country, right, you're going to have that level of fraud when in order for you to actually be a successful operator, Lewis can tell you how many years, how much time, how much money, how much red tape, how much hills and
I
battles you've had to
wish
go
I
through
got
just to
some
open
of
the
the
door.
fraud.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, when we
I
talk
needed
about it,
some of it.
we all
You got
do.
defrauded, Lou.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that came through, if you read in the details, there were consultants there that charge people a lot of fees to help get licenses and and help navigate through this process. So there was a lot of corruption happening. And to be honest, right, Waterbury
Yeah,
got a big chunk of that money. And one of the nonprofits I work with was able to access those funds. So there was good work being done with that money. That being
right.
said, was there a large portion given out to possibly friends, possibly neighbors, possibly people you've done business with? Of course, but we all know that that happens on all levels, right? Like if I'm comfortable with working with Lou, then my business will usually go with Lou. Same with you, Joe, and vice versa.
Yeah.
That happens on all levels, even on the
Not
top.
supposed. We know it.
It's not supposed to,
No.
but it does, and I think
Yes.
that is what's currently being investigated today, right? What were
Yes.
there any favors given? Were people not given opportunities versus this person?
And it's
You know,
tough.
Where
that's
there's
right.
So
right.
like I would even say, just as a participant in the space,
Mm-hmm.
because some of my fee money is 100% going to that, went into that, and we saw
That's
how it
right.
operated. And remember, it's not that they are specifically targeting the cannabis money. It just so happens that they
That's
found
right.
this to happen to be
Yeah, it
happening on a
started out
large.
with at large money, right?
Right. So there's other industries that are being looked at. But from somebody inside looking at, they picked certain towns.
That's right.
And then when they picked those certain towns, they were based on certain criterias that definitely had, whoever was more in the know was more in the know
Mm-hmm.
and was able to do process better than other people were able to do process.
That's right.
And I think they'll see that there wasn't too much, and this is my only opinion on this, is that
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it was a big corruption. And I think that business goes where business goes
That's
sometimes,
right.
but I don't think that the cannabis money was a huge corruption thing. They did focus, I would probably say, hit with some type of discrimination thing or something, or reverse discrimination or something along those lines, because the criteria was very specifically certain things for at least
Mm-hmm.
that portion of it. Or there weren't really any criteria. They just picked the 9 towns, and then they found, or whatever towns, and then they found a good operators to disseminate the money, because I think like the boys, not the United Way,
Mm-hmm.
were the people that like reviewed where the money was going, so it wasn't even in the Social Equity Council's peer review. It was a third
That's right.
party. Just sharing, if people don't know what happened, at least in this part, the Social Equity Council selected a group of administrators, which were community based organizations in those communities, and each one of them got about $1 million spend.
That's right.
The money was not to go to that organization. So if you were an administrator of the grants, you could not receive any of the grants.
Right.
So certain businesses applied then. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe they could see that, oh, only friendly businesses or friendly nonprofits to that organizer got a heads up versus some
That's
of the
right.
other ones that didn't. But that's kind of the only way you'd have to look at it logistically. But to say, oh, it was favored, like two people were sitting at a table saying, oh, we've got
Mm-hmm.
$9 million, how do we give it to our friends? I wouldn't go that far.
Yeah, no, I agree, and to that point, we had our local org came under the same level of scrutiny from other providers in the city who either one didn't know that money was available, two they were
Right,
just like too late to the punch, and three they were just like, well, why did this person get it and not me after
right,
applying super late? So I know a lot of that does happen. So that's why I don't want to discredit the monies that does come into
right. It still
to
did good things.
that's right. That's right. And, we did a streaming program with 10 kids. We bought laptops and we were able to gift them these laptops. So like we were able to do and have sustainable impact doing this good stuff. Did people do not so good things with it? That happens on all industries. Um, and I don't
And they
think you
get
throw the
away
whole
with
thing
it. And
away.
the thing is, the chickens have come home to roost. And
That's
this
right.
is what I say. We've been warning about. We had the shakeup earlier about the Social Equity Council, right? There were already questions about the way it was being run and the way funds were being used. We had that big
That's right.
shakeup earlier. There have been rumblings of this for a while, you know.
That's
And I
right.
want to give a little credit to Connecticut Cannabis Times. They really put out a really clear and concise timeline of how it happened.
Hmm.
And you know, it says multiple cannabis advocates and watchdogs have been sounding the alarm as early as 2022.
That's right.
You know, and this actually started out with some fraud from the ARPA in Middletown that they discovered. And then the social equity thing happened. And then the retaliative inspections that happened from DCP. And then the lab that was licensed here in Connecticut,
Hmm.
analytics labs that had a history of fraud. You know, so it's this has there have been rumblings and there have been warnings of this for a while. We all have been talking about the way the thing was done,
Yeah.
and I would say, fortunately for us, anybody involved in the cannabis industry, the feds caught a sniff of it because there was
Hmm.
no way the state was ever going to investigate itself
That's
and
right.
catch itself. And I hope they go back to Mike D'Agostino. I hope they go back to some of the actual legislators and start looking at their financial records and things. And I hope the feds take this seriously enough and that is a real grand jury probe, because I think all of us, if they dig deep enough, there could be a major scandal here.
Oh,
Not as big as Jeffrey Epstein, but a
definitely not.
major scandal in the Connecticut, not just the cannabis industry, but their whole nonprofit scheme and the way they're distributing money. I really hope it happens. I know, and I don't wish bad on anybody
Yeah. No,
but the
I hear that.
state.
Let's talk about that. I don't know if you've caught the rebranding of the Social Equity Council and
Oh
who is
yeah.
in and who is running it moving forward. And one of the things recently on their website is, to your point, there is this pocket of money that they're looking to roll out over the next 3 years. And to Lou's point earlier, they've identified 10 towns that have been impacted by the drug war, right? And the money is supposed to go back to those particular 10 towns. How those that money has been broken down and with or what happened to trigger that investigation, I don't know. But I think it's important to just think about, like, if these things happened before, what do we do moving forward, right? When we think
Right.
about their impact in the current industry, right? And the fact that it's still one of the most expensive, like, how does the Social Equity Council make the industry more equitable for people?
All
We
right,
have a
and
lot of
that's on
people
the
who,
business side
yeah, and that's on the business side. Like,
because, and
yeah,
because I hate to jump in here real
yeah,
quick.
please do. You know
So
it more
you're
than I do.
100% on top of it. 100%. I've never taken that
That's
apart.
why he's the perfect guest
So
for today.
yeah, exactly. He's on top of all of it. Um, so it's now become it is the most highest entry point
Mhm.
where the prices now have steadily decreased for the end user,
Mm,
and most recently over the last 6 months has really changed. And at least from what I've seen on the side that I get to see and the
mhm.
force of what I've had to do and what I do, but like you were able to get a $25 eighth, a $6 joint, a $40 gram vape pen. Like now that all of that is possible in the dispensary, you know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
not to, and I won't. I don't care. It's the dispensaries. We only have only but so many brands and shit
That's
like
right.
that. You know what I mean? But like
Mhm.
you, Rodeo just dropped their wholesale price to $20 for full size grams. So as a retailer, and we have these conversations every week, and trust me, I'm probably not my competitor's favorite person when I'm literally saying that we're all paying $20 for a 1 gram vape cartridge, and they're still selling them for $80. You know what I mean? Because just that
Right.
alone, that's
That
free
yeah,
information.
because their wholesale is street retail right now. So
So
they're right
Unfortunately.
on.
Yeah.
so now as a retailer, we would have to sell that vape pen for that 100% profit margin. You know, that 50% keystone
Hmm.
pricing
Hmm.
that you kind of have to do. We have to sell it at $40. Anything over $40 is no longer a standard business practice. Now you're kind of
Right.
gouging it a little bit,
Right.
you know?
Right.
So, you know, keystone pricing is acceptable, but when you're like, nope, I got to make 80% profit on this item, then you start showing your backside. You know what I mean? You start seeing, that's why, oh man, you can get a $25 eighth. Why? Well, I paid $12 for it. So I paid $12.50 for it. You can pay 25. Standard flip number. Same thing like on the streets. If I
Hmm.
paid $1, I sold it to you for $2.
Yeah.
That's standard street pricing. If I bought it for 25, you know what I
Double, yeah.
mean?
Double
And you
your
just
money, yeah.
double. So
Yeah. And listen, Lou, you know how much you've had to pay in order for you to
oh, it's
be even
horrible.
in the position to flip that. Do you understand what I'm
Right, it's
saying?
horrible. And you're right. And that's where now the entry point makes sense, and then there makes zero sense to be a dispensary. I mean, a hybrid dispensary. The only quote unquote profitability is if you're in the adult use side of it and you have the commanded market space. But I can tell you, it is cutthroat and it is very much that. But my competitors wouldn't think it's great to know this, but Rodeo dropped their prices to street prices. So somebody can walk into a legal dispensary, and this is for the community that likes their. And I don't want to say, everybody's got to go, because I always say there's a place for everybody, and if you got a guy, you got a guy. You do your thing, you do your thing. But there is,
Right.
there's in New Haven alone, there's $1 million going to the 4 dispensaries. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? That's
Mm-hmm.
public tax records. We pay taxes on that, and it says how much we've each made every month from where. And it's four. The city runs it and sends it to all four of us. So we know
Mm-hmm.
how much each of our. So I know how much money every month is spent in cannabis in at least the town of New Haven. And it's $1 million month on month. So with it having its still large legacy market, and I'm not talking about converting anybody, but to take it, say 200,000 of that is vape pens at $80 a piece. Now they're like, oh, cool, we can get that same vape price. It's at half the price. They just dropped what was either they buy something else or they don't. They're paying the same amount on taxes. They're just paying less for the product.
Yeah. Yeah.
You lose 100,000 off the top just from. You're like, cool, people got a couple more dollars, but now who's mad? When you're a disruptor saying that things should be cheaper and then changing your prices for them to be cheaper, even if you're unsuccessful, you've been a disruptor in the space and you're unsuccessfully disrupted the bottom.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get that. I get that. I think when we think about the market, like there has to be a balance within uh one, giving folks access that it was intended to give access to, and to keep prices high enough where people can pay their bills, right? I think there's a balance of that. I think the also, I think that we've missed here in Connecticut more than any place is like unlike other industries, cannabis isn't new, right? Like
Yeah.
it's an old culture, deeply
Yeah, we've been
rooted
around for years.
for years. And I think Connecticut's legal cannabis, like the framework, dominated by like high costs and heavy regulation, has missed the opportunity connecting with that legacy market, the people that have been here for 20, 40 years. And granted, I wrote a story about us, Lou, in 2019. There was a group of people that met in January in some apartment in Hartford, and we talked about legalization. And in that room, everybody who said they wanted a license got a license. That was Lou, that was Kibra, that was Jocelyn, you know. Um, and we had that meeting. So to look at that time and to look at where we are now, the fight is still continuing, right? How do we make sure that we don't have to spend the money that we do to get $3 million to sell weed legally here? Like that's a lot of money to
Ridiculous.
make up.
And that's what I really want to point out is this was from the beginning. It was
That's
a
right.
scam and a fraud. We pointed, I mean, even from the lottery, from the way they did it, they changed it from one entry to two entries and then unlimited entry. Right there, that was the beginning, as far as I'm concerned, of the fraud and the
Mm-hmm.
what do they call the cooperation with those who had more money than others, right? I so I hope this probe goes all the way back to the beginning. I mean,
Yeah.
I really do, because from
Yeah.
the beginning, and all of us here right on this show were involved in the process of getting this plant legalized. Like you said, you had this meeting. We've had our meetings. We all had meetings together. We all did it. We got most of what we did. The state went and turned what could have been a really beneficial social equity program. And it started with the location based instead of the people based who had been actually uh, affected by the war on drugs. So we had proposed that people who had been disproportionately affected on war on drugs would get a lower rate, would get first dibs on the licenses, and the state changed it to a location base. And right then and there was another red flag,
That's right.
because those locations, they have higher end
Yeah. I
areas
mean,
as well.
listen, I don't think people realize that the biggest cost, Luke could tell you, is location, right? You're talking about easily 500,000 plus, you know, millions you're talking about.
Yeah,
And
easily.
getting and then you talk then that doesn't even count the lawyer fees to push the zoning to get you to those places. So when we look at the like the market itself, right? Like how does one say how the cannabis industry used to be something we dreamed about being a part of legally, right? A
Oh,
lot of
well,
us wanted to get expungements, and congratulations on
sunshine
that,
and
by the way.
roses. Well, hey, look, we got that.
Congrats on that. No, that's big because that takes a lot of hard work and bravery to do. So, please be proud of that. But a lot of folks who've wanted to get into the industry, folks have put money in and won lottery tickets to then not be able to financially be able to do the next step, right? The millions of dollars to be able to actually open a cannabis industry. So when we look at the Social Equity Council, right, though it's being investigated, at the same time it's launching, rebranding, and there's a part of me that says we don't fix it with the same people that caused the problem,
Yeah,
right?
there's a certain name in there that has been a thorn from the beginning. If you remember the beginning, and
Mm-hmm.
certain name that
Yeah.
had a propensity maybe to show favoritism and try to get certain entities favoritism. And now I hope them chickens are laying some big eggs right
Yeah,
now on
yeah,
him.
absolutely. So, but I think for us as a community, right, as folks who traverse the LOB and talk to our legislators, what do we fight for next, right? How do we make sure Lou, Kibra, Jocelyn, the folks who are in the industry, stay successful, but also open the doors for other folks to become the Lou's, the Kibras, and the Jocelyns for the future, right? Like this should be an industry that folks shouldn't look to exit really quickly, but shouldn't be an industry where
Right.
folks can build legacy
The fact
at
that
right
some of
now.
these social equity people are actually, and they gave them an out, they're giving them a window. They're giving away, here, sure, well, you want to get out? You can do it. Are even considering doing it. That shows how the market was not fair to them and
That's
not
right.
favorable to them from the
That's right.
beginning. And
I
Lou, I don't want to
will.
put you on the spot, but
Yeah, I wanted to
a
ask you too.
ballpark figure, how much did it freaking cost you? Ballpark. You don't have to say exact. To just get your doors open, and you can discount what happened to Bridgeport
That's right.
because that wasn't because of the state. How
Okay.
much?
So New Haven to open was 40,000 in legal fees just for zoning.
Damn. Sorry.
Yeah. Construction. Um, construction was like 375. 120 of that was the bolt. Um, so all in probably, and then labor buying probably 750 to get the doors open.
And that is
Wow.
just
Where
normal
where
costs of opening a business. You talked about construction. You didn't even talk about your licensing just to
right? This
get
was just normal
there.
course. Right. Well,
Yeah.
you had you had the state license for for hybrid dispensaries. Um, so another
Jeez,
Did
imagine
they?
$25.
Were there any
yeah.
other
Nothing cheap.
fees
You know what I mean?
besides
But
that initial investment? Were
plus
there
the
any
three
other fees?
million that I paid to
Yeah.
get the Section 149.
Were there any other fees that the state
You know what I
imposed
mean?
after that? Inspection fees? Do
Oh
they
yeah, you
charge?
have to pay for every one of your employees. No, just
All
for
right, right.
employees.
To
So every new
350 just
employee,
for
they
every
just changed
bartender,
it. So
right?
it's $100. Yep, but well, it's now $100.
But it was
So it went
350.
down from 350 to 100.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay. So it
Right.
cost you
So
a
that went down.
ton.
But those fees are still there, and you have to pay. Well, the cash register cost me $1,000 a month. The
Mhm.
software, the security monitoring is another like $1,500 a month. There's all
Regular
these things that
electricity,
are built
rent,
in,
all,
and
you know.
the break even is so low. Yeah,
So,
it's hard. And then if and this is why nobody's becoming a hybrid anymore. But the cost of labor, the cost of the pharmacist and the pharmacist not being there puts you out of business. My
Mm,
pharmacist quit. My doors are closed.
mm,
Like
mm.
I'm in the place right now. My pharmacist quit. And my doors are closed. Like
So,
I'm not open right now.
so I have a question, Lou. We have 11 minutes left, and I'm pretty sure folks from the
keep
council
going.
might view this video, right? What are some solutions you think, in threes, like what do you think are top three solutions to save the cannabis industry from someone
Um,
who's in it?
Personally, I've been begging since the day I opened to be able to switch my license from a
Mm,
hybrid to an adult use.
okay,
Because that would allow me as a small business owner to have 70% less overhead while still providing the same
okay,
service and everything else that goes with it, and still being able to be a good business and highlight the medical patients.
right.
So
That's one.
one would be in allowing that. Two, um, when laws are passed, actually allowing the law to pass, not enacting a time buffer
Mm,
when the law, because currently the new law that passed has October 1st start date for
right,
implementation. And as you read the reviews and everything, this was put in place to help alleviate and help the
right,
businesses that are struggling. But you tell them, okay, we're going to help you, but now you have to wait 3 months.
right.
Whereas
Mm.
everything else went in July
So
1st. They got the task force right in there.
Yep, that thing started right away.
right, so um, that's that part. And then three, help the industry. And I think that people can start. There's a lot of licenses that were unused.
Mm-hmm.
So even if they say we're not ready to open up anything new, there are a lot of licenses that were unused. Like even us sitting here thinking, I have an unused
Right,
license
right, right.
Hebra
that
has
I've been
unused.
given an
Yeah.
offer for. like that I've gotten heard offers that are absolutely ridiculously like insulting at times. You know what I mean? Depending who's it
Mhm.
coming from, where is it coming? The things that I've heard are funny, and some are extraordinary, some are,
Right.
but
Right.
you know what I mean. So I think that there's a lot of unused licenses, and myself, if I could find a co-op of people
Mm-hmm.
that wanted to actually go in with like an adult use license, build it all out, and actually build out that, there'd be a lot of possibility there, especially if the co-op is able to cover the build out or cover land or things. The people in the co-op hopefully have resources
That's
that
right.
take away. So if somebody's got a storefront they're willing to push through, that takes a lot of time and energy
Somebody in
and a
a
lot of things
construction
out. If
company.
somebody's a construction worker, right. So the regulations have been brought way down because now I
Got
could
it.
probably open a dispensary for like 25, 30,000 in all honesty.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Knowing what I've known, probably for 100 grand, I can turnkey a dispensary build out at this point
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
all the bells and whistles. You know what I mean?
Got it.
The security system. So instead of having a $80,000 security system, I understand what the regulations are, and most people that go through, everybody that goes through it knows this part.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. We need cameras here, here, and here. You need here,
Right.
here, and here. I do that. I don't have to pay somebody $80,000 to do that.
Right.
Cool. I don't need a vault anymore. I don't need a pharmacist on anymore. I don't need a double man trap in the front and back anymore. Like
Mm-hmm.
all of the heavy regulation for the build outs are gone. Like
Right.
I have a wall through the middle of my building that's no longer required, but
Mm.
it's there.
Right.
If I
Right.
could
Right.
tear the wall down, I'd gain another like 30 square feet or something like that, 40 square feet. But it's
Gotcha.
there.
So
I could
so
knock
when you
down so there's all, I have a vault that I don't need anymore, but it's
okay.
there.
No, that's really good to know. So I guess my last and final question. Sorry, Joe. I just had to ask Lou while I had him here, and
All
because I think it's
right.
important.
No, yeah,
I
yeah, you
think
I
got
we
two
still
minutes.
haven't
Yeah, yeah,
talked
yeah.
about the people's place.
no, yeah, no. But this is important. The People's Place is sort of like a co-op, so this is really good
Okay,
because I
good.
want I want us to be clear about the last part you said, Lou, about helping the industry. Right? You're talking about, and I just want to be clear, financial help as well, and maybe some regulatory help as well in like removing some of those things.
No, there's a lot of, so like the build outs can be super simple nowadays. Like you can
Mhm.
move into a space that at least as long as it's allowed, don't be your biggest thing because it's special permit. Once you get through the special permit, which isn't horrible, and you can do it, but I know that smart people can do it by themselves. Most people buy a lawyer for it, but whatever. You get into the
Right,
space, the build out are much easier now. So you can use a regular construction company that you might have, a house renovation company or something, somebody that's at least licensed but can do the work. It's not a super expensive build out where they're bringing in 100 pound this and 10,000 pound that, or you know what I
got
mean?
it.
Like just regular stuff, like regular B. Put the doors in that they need to, put the security system in, the cameras go where they go. Nowadays, you get your ring cameras set up in your house like you normally do. They do 24-hour
Right,
surveillance,
right, right.
so you can use a ring consultant with the
Mm,
with the printout of your building. The ring consultant will tell you where to put the cameras. You put the cameras up. They have 24-hour, 30
you,
day feedback for like $25 a month instead of me paying
right, right.
$1,500 a month.
Guys, we got to wrap it up. I gave a
Technology,
word.
the internet. All right, cool. But my last statement is this is where old school and new school kind of meet because Ralph, you can understand technology simplifies so much stuff, even like that security stuff. A
That's
private
right.
company has to build all their own. They do, that's why they charge absorbent amount. Ring is now an app-based service on the cloud with thousands of more cuts, so they can offer a $25 option.
That's right. That's right.
So utilizing technology has changed the industry from where it is, and knowing those key points and where to put them in. 100 G's, I could get a dispensary built up, ready to go, and there's licenses to be used. If a co-op really was about it and really could do the things, I can't do anything other than say, "Hey, there's a license.
Mm,
What's up?"
got it. Yeah,
So
Okay.
no, that's good
I
to
Well,
guess
know.
that's how
Raphael,
community
there
and co-op
I
and
have
all of
your
that works, right?
challenge thrown
So,
out to your
all right.
co-op.
Yeah, no,
So what
I
you
hear
have
that.
over there at the People's Place is a co-op,
Yeah,
right?
so so what we've been doing, one of the shout outs to Rosalind, who's the ED there. We took over an old nursing school, Stone Academy, and right now it's basically a co-op for entrepreneurs, organizers, and activists. There are different subscription models for offices. Right now, we run and operate the computer lab. There is a podcast studio. It is on the east end of Waterbury. And we've been training folks, right? We've been training folks to take the work that they're passionate about to the LOB, to the city hall, making sure people are active in civic engagement. So,
How do we get in
um,
touch with it?
yeah, so thepeoplesplace.org, look us up. We're pretty active there. Please sign up for our newsletter. Our people really respond really quickly to the website. So it's thepeoplesplace.org. And again, check us out. We're on the east end of Waterbury. Tons of parking. It's really on and off the highway. People don't think it's Waterbury, but it is because it's on the border of Cheshire and Woket. So it's a really nice section of Waterbury. And we're looking to empower folks.
Right. And
So
you've always been about that. Always been a great community organizer, as well as an organizer in the state. Raphael, I've always appreciated what you've been able to do, not only for the cannabis industry, but for the community at
thank you.
large. I got a question for you. What are three things you think that would improve the cannabis industry?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think one is obviously what Lou said, so in reverse, more help for people to get into that space, right? Like if a co-op did want to do that, how what would be the first, second, and third steps? I think two, embracing the culture that is here and already here, right? I think there are people, shakers, movers, and legacy market operators that you kind of pay homage to. I
And they
think
shut
that
us out, right?
and they shut us out. And I think three, is more creative spaces for cannabis, right? So thank you
And you're
again,
taking
Joe, for
care of
having
that.
us.
Mine would be, well, anyway, I'm getting kicked off. Anyway, thank you,
Exactly.
Raphael.
Thank
I
you,
can't
Joe.
wait to see the results. We'll be talking about this for days and years to
That's
come.
right.
Thank you so much. Follow me
Thank
at Joe
you.
the Weed Guy and at Green Haven Media. We love you. We will see you next week. Thanks again. Peace and love.